Hello, Archie Dunlop here with Talking Astrology with Archie on Friday, August the 18th, 2023. Recently there has been a new moon which was square the planet Uranus, and I suggested that this new moon, which was on Wednesday, August the 16th, might be difficult. It might be explosive. We should perhaps expect the unexpected. And, I did get a comment by someone saying that they hadn't really noticed anything yet. Well, new moons are not one-day wonders. They can certainly last a fortnight until the next full moon. They can even last a month from new moon to new moon. So if you haven't seen the results of a new moon yet, don't give up. Don't give up yet. Things can still happen. Of course, given the instability of a new moon, we probably don't want anything to happen, and maybe it'll be a damp squib. Now, as far as my own experience is concerned, on the day of the new moon, there was a phone call from the county suggesting that it might be a good idea to start preparing to evacuate because there was some brush fire, big flames, was threatening property. Kind of seems strange. I mean, this fire was quite a long way away, but still there was a warning. Got a picture of the fire from a distance. There it is. There's the smoke. It's from a park, Stillicum Park in Lakewood, and that's all the smoke. Now, as it happened, nothing happened. Well, a lot of vegetation got burnt, I think, but it didn't damage any property. I don't think there were any injuries. So it was all brought under control. But anyway, I thought I'd just share what happened with that new moon so far. Now, there are other things going on in the Pacific Northwest. I was looking at the news, anything recent. So let me show you what I found. I found this. This is actually about a week old. This article in Sky News, dated Monday, August the 7th. J.K. Rowling references removed from Seattle Museum after blog post condemns hateful views on gender identity. The author has faced fierce criticism from some groups in the past for comments she has made concerning gender identity and the trans community, but she stands by her opinions and argues many Harry Potter fans agree with her. So what's actually going on? Yeah, all references to J.K. Rowling have been removed from a museum in Seattle after one employee referred to her views on gender identity as hateful. The Museum of Pop Culture, MoPop, in the US city, took out all references to the Harry Potter author from its exhibition Fantasy, Worlds of Myth and Magic, and removed her image from the Science Fiction and Fantasy Hall of Fame. The decision came after a lengthy blog post was written by a transgender museum employee back in May that accused the author of transphobic viewpoints. On Sunday, the museum management confirmed the decision, saying they root themselves in empathy, collaboration and empowerment and are looking to create opportunities for underrepresented voices in the arts and culture sector within the next 3 years. So Rowling, 58, has received a barrage of online abuse after her comments on transgender issues, which came to light in a number of posts on X, formerly Twitter, that she published in 2020. So, having seen this, I thought that it might be a good opportunity to actually look at J.K. Rowling's chart, and that's what I will be doing after I've looked at the astrology for today, which is Friday, August the 18th, 2023. So, what's going on today? Top right, that is a picture of J.K. Rowling. So we've got quite a lot of stuff going on in Virgo. Now, yesterday I was really quite downbeat because the moon was making an opposition aspect to Saturn. I felt that this was going to create a certain amount of restriction, and it may be difficult to get things done, and so I was concerned about that. So the moon has moved on. It's still in Virgo, but it has moved away. It's moved away from the opposition to Saturn, and now I think I can be a little more optimistic. You can see that there's a conjunction between the moon and Mercury in Virgo. I think that conjunction is really nice. The moon and Mercury are the two communication planets. The moon is how we communicate through our feelings. Mercury is more about sort of verbal, maybe intellectual communication when they come together. There's a spontaneity in which we can talk and which we can communicate. It's in Virgo, so it's relatively grounded communication. Virgo is a sign that's often associated with health, so it's maybe a great day for talking about health issues. Diet, lifestyle, that kind of thing. If you've got any ideas about health, now might be a good time to talk about them. If you're worried about health, with Moon Mercury conjunction in Virgo, now might be the time to talk about your worries. Maybe some action is required, so don't keep it to yourself. Overall, I think that Moon Mercury conjunction is very fortunate, and you'll see that the moon moves on to make a conjunction with Mars. So unlike yesterday, there's going to be a lot more freedom. The things that were restricting us will move on, and you'll notice that the moon makes a trine. It's making a trine to Uranus. That's quite spontaneous, and it allows us to just talk about what's on our mind without being embarrassed, without worrying about what other people might say. So yes, so overall, I think that it's going to be a good day. Certainly a better day than yesterday. So now let me move on and talk about my forecast for the 12 signs for today, which is Friday, August the 18th, 2023. Aries, there are certain subjects that people don't want to talk about. Perhaps they are afraid of the response, or maybe it's just too complicated. But you're not afraid to wade in, being open and honest. Your approach may actually be appreciated because what everyone needs right now is a powerful dose of typical Aries honesty. Taurus, today you're on sparklingly good form, and your quicksilver words can bring surprise and change. Note quicksilver words. We don't normally associate the word quicksilver with Taurus, but I'm saying it. Taurus, you can be quicksilver with the way you speak. So don't be shy as you break free from the ties that have recently been holding you back. At the same time, you can finish a job which has recently been on hold because you have a place to channel and develop your creative self-expression. Gemini, you can get your message out thanks to a conjunction between the Moon and Mercury. The words flow naturally, and it feels that your head and your heart are working cooperatively. But the place your knowledge is most useful is your own home. You understand what your home needs, and you can give your family some excellent advice. Cancer, things are looking better. The Moon is moving away from a difficult aspect with Saturn, and it is now encountering Jupiter, Mercury and Uranus. You can liven things up, and the things you say will be very perceptive. Try to read something or watch something about health and fitness. You might have an important realization. Leo, there is continued emphasis on money, but this is less of a problem than it was yesterday. You've got a firm grasp of your financial needs, and you know what needs to be done. And particularly if you're in America, you can find new income streams. And an idea that comes from nowhere is worth pursuing. Virgo, a good day for Virgoans. There is a conjunction between the Moon and Mercury in your star sign. Today, you're probably the most intelligent of the 12 signs of the zodiac, and your understanding of ongoing events is second to none. And you can bring to the table something that is very difficult to refuse. Libra, in terms of work, it can be a useful Friday, provided you understand your limitations. Regardless of the temptations, it's not a time for making a big name for yourself. Instead, you should work behind the scenes, being quietly satisfied with your own prowess and promise. Later on, when the Moon moves into your star sign, you can change your approach. Scorpio, there are times when Scorpios give up on humanity and feel that they have no choice but to fall back on their own resources. There are other times, like today, when you can see a glimmer of hope. Friends and colleagues are going to be more responsive than they have been of late, particularly if you give them the right level of encouragement. Sagittarius, things are looking good. There is a lot of action in the sign Virgo, and for Sagittarians, Virgo has a special connection with career and status. So you have a chance to be seen and heard, and the things you say will grab everyone's attention. And a conjunction between the Moon and Mercury could mark a favourable turn in your various relationships. Capricorn. Capricorn is supposed to be quite a down-to-earth sign, and at least on the surface is often quite humble. But today you've got big ideas, and you want to move beyond your everyday reality. And with a sudden burst of activity, you can accomplish a great deal very quickly. But don't push yourself too hard. Aquarius. Other people want to make things complicated, but you're having none of it. As far as you're concerned, things are simple. And that's because you're not distracted by unnecessary emotions. Besides, the root cause of things is often obvious. Not deep childhood memories, but instead pure, simple greed. Pisces. It is difficult to make your own decisions. Other people are holding most of the cards, and in most cases you'll have to respond rather than initiate. But I don't think it's a problem. People mean well, and they'll give you the impetus to make positive changes to your life. One-to-one relationships may exceed your expectations. So I'm now going to switch to the I Ching. And as always, I threw 3 coins in the air and I asked the question, what is Friday going to be like for visitors to my YouTube channel? So the hexagram I threw was this, hexagram number 5, waiting, and it doesn't move. There's really not much to say on this. Waiting is just waiting. We're waiting for something to happen. We know it's going to happen. We're confident. We're talking about something good, but we just know it's going to happen. But it's not going to happen today. Maybe tomorrow. I don't know. And really, that's all I've got to say about the I Ching. It's a good hexagram. We don't have to think ahead. We don't have to worry. Will it happen? Will it not happen? Just relax. Everything's fine. You can just do something else. Maybe have a good meal. That's what the I Ching talks about. Waiting while eating, perhaps. Or whatever else you want to do to pass the time. Now, let's go back to the astrology, and I want to look at the horoscope of J.K. Rowling. This isn't a chart I've really looked at before, so I'm perhaps not very prepared. Okay, I've looked at it a bit. I must say it's not a chart that I actually really relate to. I mean, it's not something that really speaks to me. But nonetheless, I'll see what I can do with it. Now, there is an issue, quite an interesting issue, about her time of birth. Now, we don't actually know what time she was born, according to Astro.com. They have a website, loads and loads of charts of famous people. So here is her chart. Now, apparently, she was asked what her ascendant was, and she said, she said she was an Aquarius. I assume that's true that she said that, but that's apparently all we've got to go on. She's got Aquarius rising. So this time, 9:10 p.m, is for when 15 Aquarius was rising, because that's like the middle of the sign Aquarius. And other people have suggested other times, but as far as I'm concerned, that's all we've got to go on. And even then, we can't be 100% sure that that really is her time of birth, but that really is her time of birth, or even close to her time of birth. Nonetheless, for today, I'm going to go with Aquarius rising, 15 Aquarius rising to be precise. And her date of birth is July the 31st, 1965. And so we've gone for 9:10 p.m. in Yate, England. So what stands out about her horoscope? Well, what must stand out about J.K. Rowling's horoscope is the fact that she's got absolutely loads and loads and loads of Virgo. She's got the moon in Virgo. She's got Mercury in Virgo, Venus in Virgo, and Uranus and Pluto in Virgo. Okay, Uranus and Pluto are generational planets, but Mercury, Venus, Moon in Virgo is a lot of Virgo. So I know that she's a Leo, but maybe in some respects she's more of a Virgo than a Leo. And in my opinion, as women get older, beyond their teens, they tend to grow into their moon. They start off when they're young as more as their sun sign, but the sun sign kind of morphs into the moon sign as their primary expression. And it's the opposite with men. You usually start off with the moon sign and move into your sun sign. I don't know what you think about that. Now, in order to be a successful writer, you need a lot of discipline. And you can see the discipline in that chart. You've got to be able to set up times for writing, and you've got to, do it day in, day out. And you've got to be very persistent, having to deal with a huge amount of rejection, having self-doubt about whether you're wasting your time writing all this stuff. And, you can see that she's got Saturn opposition all of this stuff in Virgo. Now, you might think that that was a problem, but I would have thought in her case that the Saturn was providing a certain amount of structure. Now, Mercury is in at 0 degrees 2 minutes Virgo. Now, assuming she was born around 9 p.m., we can say that her Mercury was in Virgo, because if she was born much earlier, it would be in Leo. But assuming Mercury is at 0 degrees 2 minutes Virgo, yeah, that is a great place for Mercury. Mercury is a planet associated with writing and with communication, and you'll see that Mercury is widely conjunct Venus. Mercury-Venus conjunctions are really very fortunate. They're very creative. They can be very artistic. And in terms of business, they can be quite successful as well. So yeah, Mercury-Venus conjunctions are certainly worth having. And so maybe that Mercury-Venus conjunction, even though it was quite wide, over 7 degrees apart, maybe it was working for her. Another interesting thing about her horoscope is that pretty much all her planets are west of the horizon. Sorry, west of the meridian. So you can see her chart, except that you got Saturn here in the first house, but all those planets in the 7th, Placidus 7th, of course, that would be whole sign 8th. But all these planets are to do with the west. So how does that work? I was just trying to think about that. If you've got all those planets west, it tends to mean that you are kind of focused on other people rather than yourself. Now, maybe that's how you go about being a successful writer. Maybe if you just write for yourself, without considering other people, maybe you've got a problem. But if you're able to consider other people, then you are writing your books for other people. You're perhaps better able to understand what people want, because at the end of the day, being a writer, you can write some brilliantly original stuff, but it's no good if it doesn't get published. And maybe in order to get published, you need to be able to think about your audience. And so perhaps this is what she was able to do. I read her first book. I read it to my son when he was small. I can see why her books were successful. I mean, it seemed to me that there was a lot going on in the book. There was a lot of excitement. It was not. I wouldn't have said it was very subtle. It was just real sort of in your face. The action in it. That was my impression of it. But she seemed to know that was the thing to do. That was what she realized she had to do to get published. Maybe, I mean, I don't know, but certainly reading it, I could understand why the book was so successful. It was exciting. There was things going on all the time, so I could understand that. And maybe that's all her planets. to the west. That Mercury. Now J.K. Rowling was, she's very, intelligent, well educated. I mean, I think she study, or part of her degree, I think, was in Latin, and so normally Latin is not the most useful subject to study at university, but in her case, she was able to use her knowledge of the classics and mythology to weave her stories. And so perhaps again, all those planets where she knew how to use her knowledge which you thought would be of no interest to anyone, to actually use her knowledge to sell books. So maybe that was how it was working. Now, as far as the issues she's having, she is being cancelled, isn't she? For what she said about transgender. She has gone out of her way to support women who are victims of abuse, and she's done it in quite a strident way, and in terms of her her what she's been saying on Twitter, she doesn't seem to be afraid. Of course, it helps if you're rich. That gives her a certain amount of protection. I mean, if you're just an ordinary person and you tweet your views, it could be economically very difficult if you get cancelled. You might lose your job, etc. But she has got the financial backing to be able to say what she likes, and she does say what she likes. So where do we see that in her chart? She actually has a very strong Mars. Now, she's got her Mars in Libra. Now, you might say, well, it's not a strong Mars because it's in its detriment. But if she's born at night, I mean, we think she's born at night at that time, assuming she's born at night. So there's a possibility she's not born at night, but because we don't know for sure what her time of birth was. But if she's got an ascendant 15 Aquarius or later, nighttime birth. So Mars is a nocturnal planet. So that means it works well in a nighttime chart. And when it is a nocturnal planet, it likes being above the horizon. And indeed, Mars is above the horizon. And Mars is a masculine planet, and it's in a masculine sign. And so this gives Mars a great deal of strength. It is able to, it's tough. It likes to, it says what it thinks, and it's not afraid of getting into a fight. I mean, not a physical fight, but more of a sort of intellectual fight, a Twitter fight. So that's perhaps how Mars is working. As far as what's going on at the moment, the kind of abuse she's getting from as we just saw from that article. I think it's important that she has got the North Node. You see, the North Node, there's her North Node, there's her South Node, there's the North Node axis. And her nodal axis is on the Venus-Saturn midpoint. So you see, she's got Venus at 7 Virgo, Saturn at 16 Pisces. So that's about 9. So the midpoint is the Saturn-Venus midpoint. So she's got the nodes on the Venus-Saturn midpoint. So you could argue that the nodes are somehow about her destiny, what she should be doing. And you could say that Venus-Saturn might represent the principle of maybe abused women. You know, Venus is a universal, symbol for women, and then with Saturn, abused women. So the node, so maybe her, if you like, she feels her destiny is connected with doing something to protect and help abused women. I think she set up some didn't she set up some refuge in Edinburgh, and it couldn't be a charity because of because of transgender issues, so she has to just bankroll it herself or something like that. And so that's what she's got heavily involved in, and that's maybe how the node on the Venus-Saturn midpoint is working. So those are a few things about her chart. It's a chart, but I just don't feel that I fully get her chart. Not entirely. She has got the Neptune is probably important in that chart. I should say, you see, Neptune is square the ascendant. So if you're using whole sign houses, Neptune would be in the 10th. It would be kind of on the cusp of the 10th. And so maybe that's working quite well. With Neptune is about, Neptune is about fantasy. And so for most people, fantasy can be dangerous. But if you're a writer, creating fantasy, having Neptune on the whole sign 10th house cusp, might be really useful. Further, her Neptune, if you look at her midpoints, she has got Neptune very close, assuming she's born at that time, very close to an aspect with the Mars-Saturn midpoint. So there's Mars, there's Saturn. So she's got sort of Neptune semi-square the Mars-Saturn midpoint. So maybe in terms of her writing, she's able to channel some of the aspects of a Mars-Saturn. Mars-Saturn, okay, it's about sort of destruction and decay and perhaps evil, the Mars-Saturn midpoint. And so maybe she's able to channel that into her writing through her books, because that first Harry Potter book I read, there was a real touch of evil in that book. I thought she was able to bring it over extremely well. There was a sort of dark side. It wasn't completely like that book. There was some really sort of evil characters in there, which was could have been were genuinely disturbing. And maybe that's Neptune aspecting the Mars-Saturn midpoint, and the hypothetical planet Hades. Let me just show you the hypothetical planet Hades before I finish with this chart. Let's just show you all of the hypothetical planets. Hades, she has Hades at 1457 Taurus. So she has Hades exactly on the Aries point, square the ascendant, assuming she's born when she's born at 9:10 p.m. But even if she hasn't, she's got Hades on the Aries point. So the Aries is the world at large, and she can bring to bear Hades. Hades, it's all that sort of dark unpleasantness, evil, death, that kind of thing, and she's able to sort of bring it into her books. And I suppose that's how she's channeling it. Maybe she could see it in her, before writing, she could see it in her everyday life, and she was able to channel it into her writing. So anyway, those are a few thoughts on J.K. Rowling. I'm not entirely satisfied with my analysis of her chart. I mean, not least because I didn't feel entirely confident about the birth time. It's got a Rowling rating of C, which means we can't be confident. So even that ascendant of Aquarius, I don't think we can be too sure, but she really does have Aquarius rising. But she did say she had Aquarius rising, apparently, when she was asked. So anyway, that's all I'm going to say on the subject of J.K. Rowling, and I will talk to you tomorrow.